distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have you in our conference this morning. I consider that the congregation is properly constituted, and now I move that we begin our conference. I'd like to welcome colleagues and partners that are joining us online, and in that regard, I would like to sound to hear whether Mr. John Komen of the Program for Biosafety System can hear us. John?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly, Dr. Mugira.
Thank you.
Good morning once again, and I hope you can hear me clearly as well.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, John, and welcome.
Perfect.
John is joining us from, where are you joining us from, John?
From the Netherlands, from Haarlem.
Thank you, and welcome for our sessions this morning. So once again, karibuni for this 4 days conference. As a way of prayer, we shall recite the words of Kenya's national anthem and the East African anthem following one another. So we shall be standing as we do that. Media team, please.
Mungu nguvu yetu, baraka wetu, iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na udugu, amani na uhuru, na tupate na ustawi. Amkeni ndugu zetu, tufanye sote bidii, nasi tujitoe kwa nguvu, nchi yetu ya Kenya tunayoipenda, tuwe tayari kuilinda. Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu.
Thank you. You can take your seats. I will be chairing the session of the opening session of this conference this morning. My name is Roy Mugira, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Biosafety Authority. At this moment, I would like to invite the Chair of the Board of Directors of the National Biosafety Authority, Professor Genesio Kenyamario, to make his welcome remarks. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Bwana CEO. My name is Genesio Kenyamario, and I'm the chair of the National Biosafety Board. Today, I would like to welcome you. First of all, I think I would like to introduce my board members. If they are around, they can start. Those who are around, Dr. Joroge, Bwana CEO, Roy Mugira, Dr. Muthe there, Mr. Mohammed at the back, and the madam from, yeah, I think the others are coming in the course of the day. Thank you very much. Members of the Board of Directors, stakeholders present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Recording in progress.
I'm very excited today to join you during this official opening of the 12th Annual Biosafety Conference, whose theme is Modern Biotechnologies and Biosafety in the Bottom-up Economic Transformation Agenda. This theme fits very well with the government agenda, as explained there, bottom-up economic agenda, what we call better. Again, I'm delighted to acknowledge the presence of our company secretary was supposed to be around. I'm not sure whether we have a representative. Karibu sana. And from the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. And also I would like to welcome other high-ranking participants, delegates who have joined us today, and those who have joined us virtually. Also, I welcome all the delegates from various ministries, state agencies, the academia, scientific community, business community, and other stakeholders. Your presence here today is highly appreciated. In the same breath, I'd like to register my sincere appreciation to the government of Kenya through the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development for supporting the authority in hosting this conference. We do not take this for granted. I know we have a lot of budgetary constraints, and we are really happy that you have been able to support us in that endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, NBA as a state corporation, our mandate is to ensure the safety of human and animal health and to provide adequate protection of the environment in relation to the use of genetically modified organisms, what we call GMOs. For the last 10 years or so, the authority has positioned itself strategically in its operation environment by aligning itself effectively to changes taking place in all areas of biotechnology. Thanks to this, the authority has remained relevant while enhancing its performance, meeting diverse expectations, and aligning programs and activities to the overall government development agenda. This year's conference will focus on 6 major thematic areas, which have been carefully selected to align with the overall theme of the conference. And that is the government better agenda. The sessions include 1, biosafety regulatory, legal frameworks, and global collaborations. The other theme is biotechnology and biosafety in sustainable agricultural transformation. Number 3 is the regulation of emerging technologies. And number 4, public engagement, capacity building, and biosafety communications. Number 5, the adoption of modern biotechnologies in Kenya. And lastly, the climate change and adaptation. Ladies and gentlemen, the operations of National Biosafety Authority is guided by various statutes at the global and national arena. Kenya is signatory to the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, which we ratified in 2003. At the national level, the protocol is domesticated by the National Biotechnology Development Policy of 2006, the Biosafety Act of 2009, and then the establishment of the National Biosafety Authority. The authority has so far published 4 regulations, namely Biosafety contained use regulations of 2011. Number 2, biosafety import, export, transit regulations of 2011. Number 3, biosafety environmental release regulations of 2011. And lastly, biosafety labeling regulations 2012. It is noteworthy to notify you that the authority recently completed the review of its 2020-2025 strategic plan in order to align it to the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and the realities of today. For the remaining period of the strategic plan, which is ending next year, the board has committed itself to enhance public education, public awareness on biosafety matters, and to address the persistent issues of misinformation and disinformation on GMOs among the public. Although faced with challenges such as the 10-year ban on GMOs and the ongoing court petitions, the authority has managed to approve the commercialization of BT cotton with significant contribution to agriculture and manufacturing sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference builds on the experiences learned in the past, while also looking ahead with new areas and unexploited opportunities. I wish to take this unique opportunity to welcome all the eminent speakers and guests from various parts of the world and even walks of life who are going to participate in this conference. Thank you for creating time to be with us and to share your knowledge and first experience. It will be thought-provoking to learn the perspectives that some of you will bring into these discussions, and I sincerely hope that you will enjoy your time during debates and networking. Thank you for participation. Now, I wish in a special way to appreciate the partners who have made this conference possible, including the National Research Fund, the Program for Biosafety Systems, PBS, Bio East Africa, Corteva Agri-Science, Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology, International Service for the Acquisition of Agri-Biotech Applications, ISA, and the East African Grain Council. Your financial and technical support is much appreciated. Now, finally, ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome the representative of the PS, or the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development, to make his remarks and officially open this 12th Biosafety Conference. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning. Maybe before I read the speech of the Cabinet Secretary, it's important to say exactly what he has told me to put it correctly to you. Up to today, 7 wanted to be here. But you are aware, especially those Kenyans who are in this room, about the issue of Mogoka and Mira. They are still having meetings at the State House to see how they will resolve that. So that's why he was not able to come, and he sent his apologies. Apologies accepted. So I'm Collins Marango. I'm the Director of Plant Protection and Food Safety in the Ministry. I'm a participant here. That's why when he heard that I'm here, he told me, please step in for him. So for 10 minutes, I'll be the CS. After that, I'll become a participant. Thank you. And now lead the speech. Professor Injonesio Kinyam Mario, the chair. Honorable Justice Kimei, Member of Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture, Dr. Roy Mogera, Chief Executive Officer, National Biosafety Authority, Professor Oduol, our keynote speaker today, Mr. John Kim Komen, Director Program for Biosafety Systems, and Dr. Margaret Karembo, ISA African Center, invited speakers, the media community, distinguished participants both here and who are joining us from the diaspora, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to join you at the opening session of the 12th Annual Biosafety Conference here in Naivasha. I wish to thank the National Biosafety Authority for organizing this conference, which has been held annually since 2012. Further, I wish to appreciate the partnership with the following institutions in hosting of the conference: the Program for Biosafety Systems, the International Service for the Acquisition of Biotechnology Applications, that is ISA, Conteva Agri Science, East Africa, the National Research Fund, the Open Forum on Agriculture and Biotechnology, the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, and the United Nations Green Council. This event has come when, as a nation, we need to evaluate our achievement towards attaining our country's development agenda sustainability. In this case, the primary focus is on how various government entities and other non-state actors who work together to deliver the government agenda. The Vision 2030, the medium-term plan for, and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda that is better are to be achieved. I am pleased that the conference theme, Modern Biotechnologies and Biosafety in the bottom-up economic transformation, resonate well with the government agenda. The better is focusing in the 5 main pillars, namely agricultural transformation and inclusive growth, transforming the micro, small, and medium enterprise economy, housing and settlement, healthcare, and the digital superhighway and the creative economy. These pillars are all geared towards bringing down the cost of living among Kenyans, eradicating hunger, creating jobs, and improving our foreign exchange balance. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, Kenya was indeed the first country to sign the Catania Protocol on Biosafety in the year 2000 and ratified it in the year 2003. This protocol, which is part of the Global Convention on Biological Diversity, provides a framework for the utilization of biotechnology while also recognizing the potential risks and that may be posed by new technologies. The signing and the ratification of the protocol by the government is a firm confirmation and a commitment to the global governance of modern biotechnology. Further, it is an expression of the country's aspiration of becoming a key participant in the global biotechnology enterprise. To domesticate the protocol, the government approved the National Biotechnology Development Policy in the year 2006. The policy subsequently led to the enactment of the Biotechnology and Biosafety Act in the year 2009 and the establishment of the National Biosafety Authority. The authority sole mandate is to exercise general supervision and control over the transfer, handling, and the use of genetically modified organisms, that is GMOs, This is done with a view to ensuring the safety of human and animal health, and the provision of an adequate level of protection of the environment. Kenyans should therefore feel secure that an dedicated government agency exists to ensure safety of biotechnology products before they are released to the farmers and consumers. I note with appreciation the strides made by the authority. Some of them include: 1, development and publication of necessary biosafety regulations to support operational mandates of the authority. 2, to operationalization the operationalization of the GMO testing and molecular lab. This is very key. The approval for commercialization of BT cotton with resistance to the devastating cotton boll pest. The BT cotton is currently being cultivated in more than 20 counties in western Kenya, coastal region, eastern and central regions. The approval for the cultivation of the BT cotton has started bearing fruits, with thousands of jobs already created at the farm level and the value chain process, including aggregation, ginning, spinning, weaving, and knitting, and garment manufacturing. 4, the approval for environmental release of BT maize, improved for resistance to maize stem borer pest, and genetically modified cassava that is resistant to cassava brown streak virus, both of which are now in the final stages of variety evaluation towards commercialization. 5, the migration of NBA, that is National Biosafety Authority Services, to online platform, thus facilitating quick and expedite processing of application. Decentralization of NBA services to key entry points on the country. And number 7, acquisition of a prime land that will host the headquarters, and more importantly, a demonstration field to showcase approved biotechnology crops to farmers, among other achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, while we appreciate the strides made by the authority, we are also aware of challenges faced by the regulator, among them misinformation on GMOs coupled by low levels of biosafety awareness in the country, which has contributed to negative perception on the technology. I therefore urge the NBA board and management to enhance its program on public education and the awareness on biosafety to address this shortcoming to facilitate accelerated adoption of safe technologies and contribute to food security. The low levels of public education and awareness on modern biotechnology has led to fear and oppression arising from misinformation and disinformation about the technology. This has further resulted in a long-drawn litigation against government decision to lift the ban on the importation and the consumption of genetically modified foods. I am glad to note that one of the petitions filed against the government at the Environment and Land Court was dismissed in October last year. In the judgment, the court noted that the country has a robust regulatory framework to ensure the safety of modern biotechnology. This conference presents the perfect platform and opportunity to explore the potential for the application of agricultural biotechnology as a tool for socio-economic transformation. I therefore look forward to the outcome of your deliberations. I am indeed impressed that various directors, senior staff of various ministries are attending this conference, starting with a pre-conference training in science communication yesterday. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I wish to appreciate the partners who have joined hands with the authority to actualize the conference as well as the various participants in the plenary, present both physically and through online platforms. With these remarks, it is now my pleasure and honor to declare the 12th Annual Biosafety Conference officially open. Thank you, and may God bless you.
And when you get back, pass our regards and appreciation to the Cabinet Secretary. At this point, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a special guest coming from the National Assembly, representing the Agriculture Committee in the National Assembly, is the Honorable Justice Kemei, MP for Sigowet, Soin constituency in Kericho. I'd like to invite Mheshimiwa to come and say jambo and also to make a statement in regards to the cotton value chain within his constituency and the application law of BT cotton. Karibu, Mheshimiwa. Sorry. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the National Biosafety Authority, Directors, representative of the CS, participants, good morning. Good morning once more. Where I come from, you say a greeting twice. My people believe you should do that so that a boy is born and a girl is also born. I was asked by Roy to make a statement, and my statement will be very brief. I'm joined from Parliament by Kilimo. Kilimo, please be upstanding. Kilimo represents the Secretariat of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. I'll be joined shortly by my colleagues from Parliament, members of Parliament from the Agriculture Committee, and they've asked me to be here early enough so that you can recognize that Parliament is represented. I was asked to make a statement. I don't have a statement to make. But I can say I'm a believer in biotechnology. And members of Parliament, and indeed those from the Agriculture Department, have an open mind on biotechnology and the entire science of genetic modification. Specifically, I'm interested in accelerated use of biotechnology because it has a major role in the economy of Western Kenya, Nyanza, and in particular Sigawit's constituency, where we grow cotton, we grow cassava, and we grow maize. The three crops that have been mentioned in the keynote address of the minister. I look forward to helping you people advance the technologies where I come from and to make sure that we realize improved production, we realize better health for our people, and safety for the environment. And finally, may God bless you. This is the third time I'm in this conference, and I really, really like being here. I think that's why the Departmental Committee on Agriculture asked me to be here early enough to join you. And finally, I want to declare that I'm not a scientist like Professor Oduor. I'm a student of communication, I'm a student of English, and I have very little knowledge in science, but I believe in science. And I think it has a major role in the advancement of humankind. God bless you and thank you.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa. Thank you very much for your constant support. Mheshimiwa told us a story of a place in his constituency that is called Stopamba. Store Pamba means the store where cotton was being traded. It was a thriving economic center that has come down because of the low productions in cotton. And he said, we look forward towards the revival of that center and many other centers like those through the application of technology to overcome the devastating pest, the cotton bollworm. So thank you very much, Mheshimiwa, and thank you for the support that your committee has continued to give us. You remember the discussions we have been having about budgets, and the committee has agreed to support a further allocation to the National Biosafety Authority for purposes of public education and awareness. Once again, we thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Dr. Henry Kenyua. Kenyua is from the Presidential Secretariat on the Economic Transformation Agenda to make his presentation on the BITA, the bottom-up economic transformation, and how it links up with what we do as the National Biosafety Authority. So, Daktari Kenyua, karibu. Irene, you support the presentation? Oh, okay. Yes. You can be saying jambo.
Yeah. Okay. The chair, Professor Kinyamario, the CEO, Dr. Mugira, my good friend, Dr. Marango here. If you have a very serious event that is looking for an event moderator that is able to mix between the politician, the scientist, and the senior government agencies, the guy to call to be your moderator is this one. Today he's being the CS, so he's being but he can really keep the room awake. Nice to see you. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much with your committee. Many things happened that you not necessarily, without the National Assembly, many things we can speak, even like a Biosafety Authority, other authority could just remain there. But now the National Assembly is able to give them life and do a follow-up to make sure what has been said it can be followed up. Again, my name is Henry Kenyua. I am an advisor in the Executive Office of the President, the unit called the President Economic Transformation Secretariat. And I am here today to just take you through the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. I think it was very well addressed in the, the presentation by the CS, and I think you just want to go through and see what exactly looked like it has not arrived. Let me resend it just because it's a presentation. Just one. Oh, then we are missing. All right, and as Dr. Marangu and talked about it, we have heard about the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We know about the bottom-up because from the campaign period, kila mtu alijua tunatoka chini tunaenda wapi? Juu. Tunatoka bottom tunaenda wapi? Juu. So it was very clear, clear and call. But then when after the government came into office, now came up with the key agenda that was, packaged in that, and you see the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. So the key word in the better is the transformation. And when you come to the issue about transformation, the question is the transformation can and should be disruptive. It's not disruptive, it cannot be, and it is not business as usual. So what exactly is it that the government intends to do as part of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, more so in agriculture? I'll talk a little bit more details on agriculture, so that now, because that is where National Biosafety Authority, among many others, will play a key role. The way it was designed, it was part of the campaign period, and then once the president came to see, how can we make sure that the commitment he made, he will be able to be delivered in a manner that he personally can be able to follow it up. And that's why he set up a unit called the Council of Economic Advisors, that is headed by Dr. David D. And then under that, there's a unit called the President Economic Transformation Secretariat, headed by Dr. Agustin Cheruiyot. That is where I work as an advisor. And this is basically now that has been following up. So the stories I was going is so this is basically how it was set up. And the role of PET is not to implement. It's not an implementor body. It's not to play any implementation role, but provides convening support. It convenes coordination. It actually now helps, supports various implementing bodies, unlock any bottleneck that might be there in implementing what the president wants done and the country. Now, there are three, the overarching objective of every government, this government is to how to see, ensure there is growth in then new jobs and growth in incomes. That's like overarching objective. And to do that, he identified prioritized about 5 pillars. And I know it's interesting when a government prioritizes. Doesn't mean that others are not important, but at this point, we are going to put a little bit more resources and more focus and more coordination on these areas to make sure that is able to drive our economic growth. The areas are agriculture, MSMEs, affordable housing, digital economy, and health. And then we have the enablers like the cooperatives, if you have the cooperatives, and then we have the gender and inclusion. Why agriculture? I mean, the key objective of agriculture is basically able to provide a key turnaround. They can address the issue of the cost of living, forex, jobs, incomes. So you can see all the areas that actually agriculture is able to change, and therefore, how do you do that? And the key intervention that you can have in agriculture to address some of the key areas that need to be sorted out. So what was the plan? What actually did the plan say? And I suppose I took you saw how the plan was developed and how we got here. So it's basically the plan in agriculture, what were the commitments? And what are the commitments up to now? This provide adequate, affordable working capital to farmers through well-managed organizations. Raise productivity, and I think this is really critical, is where you come in, increase productivity. Every commodity you touch in Kenya, whether it's crops or livestock, the productivities, there's always room for improvement in the issue of productivity. How do we reduce the imports? Then transforming food poor, because the area when farmers are food poor, these people are real poor. You have people, but you cannot even produce your own food, then clearly there's a lot of poverty in that area. So with that, the government came up with three now in agriculture, the 5 pillars. Then within agriculture, came up with the 3. That's number 1, increase food security, reduce imports, and grow exports. And within each pillar, we came up with the priority value chain. So you could say like food security is maize. We know when you talk of food shortage or food sufficiency, we are talking of maize. Maize is largely, but you can see there's maize, there's Irish potatoes, and you can see this is now where we need to continue producing more to feed ourselves. And then number 2 is reducing imports. We have a lot of input coming in, like rice. Rice, you know, we produce max we produce is actually 20%. We always import 85% of our rice requirement. Cotton is a lot of room for improvement. Oil, edible oils, again, that's what we're looking at it in terms of the amount of maybe we import in the level of almost about over $1 billion, $1 billion worth of edible oils. And these are things that can be produced locally, and these are things science would be able to provide a very good answer, and that's where we now, and the Biosafety Authority being one of the key body that you are addressing that. Then also the pillar is growing export. You know, a crop like coffee, there's a time we used to export over 120,000 metric tons. Today we are about at 40,000 metric tons. Crops like, pyrethrum, pyrethrum, there's a time from 7 to 8, we were #1 in the world in bronze production, never not there. So how can we get all this? And you do look at all these areas, how to move there, you appreciate that there's a key role that science will play and key role that National Biosafety Authority will be providing leadership and guidance in how this one will be done. But for that to happen, what are the 4 strategic, so we have the 3 pillars, then you have what I call the 4 strategic initiatives that the government intend to do to ensure that we have achieve the intended objectives. One is organize farmers into cooperatives or collectives. Over 75% of our farmers, whether in coffee, there are some crops, almost 100% of our farmers are smallholder farmers. And for the first smallholder farmers to be able to receive capital, receive proper support, is better for them to be organized so that now they'll be able to be reached. So the objective is organizing farmers and other key stakeholders into cooperatives. Number 2 is increase production and productivity at competitive cost. And this is across board. The commercial revamp and strengthen, the issue of the soils and seed systems, the issue of the provided fertilizer, feeds, agrovet, improved seeds. So that's where you see a lot about really improving production and productivity. National Biosafety Authority plays a key role there because it's deep science, there's research that will come from biotechnology and other researches that are regulated and also guided and by National Biosafety Authority. And then number 3 is reducing post-harvest losses and provide warehouse receipt. They provide we are very clear when you look at things. We are like, if you touch some of the commodities, you'll be surprised how high some of the post-harvest losses are. And some of it is basically there's a lot of area that can be addressed by us from a science perspective. Where is that growing? What other things can be done? In addition to all these other things, drying, cooling, linking to market, because a structured market is also one way of reducing post-harvest losses. When you produce what you produce, you know where to sell it, and you have a way to buy it. You have somebody to buy it. You don't necessarily need to store it, because as a farmer, you produce onto for a farmer, then it is sold. Then if it is maize, I think you've seen like even late last year, Honorable Cabinet Secretary going around and launching mini dryers. They were within that strategic initiative. There are many things happening in that. And then finally is also increasing value addition. So the government's the 3 pillars: food security, then 4 is organized farming cooperative, increase production productivity, reduce post-harvest losses and storage, and number 2 is increase value addition. And this goes across all the three pillars. But how do you do it? What is the mode of the mode of operation? How is the government doing it, and how is it going to do it? First is like the banks do, is know your customer, KYC, know your customer, you know your client, know your farmer. And that's why the government embarked on this system called the Kenya Integrated Agricultural Management Information System. And this is a system that has 4 main modules. Module 1 is on farmer registration. That has already been completed. We've registered 6.4 million farmers, and this is not just registering the farmers, it's registering the farmers and the farms. We have geolocation of all these farmers, where they are, what they grow, and you can filter. You can filter by the size of the farm, the value chain they grow. You can filter by those who use fertilizer, and you can filter by those who use certified seed. You can filter by those who keep both livestock and crops. You can filter by whether they are close to a market. Is a robust system that that once it's utilized, that the government is utilizing to know and serve the farmers better. Whether it is fertilizer, I do make sure that we have the right fertilizer, of the region and crop specific fertilizer. If it is even seed, we have the right, the region and the region specific seed varieties and all that. So this provide that information, but this data is now housed at CARO. CARO is one that does that, and therefore anybody want to use they're able to provide linkage that anybody can access this, this data, of course, adhering to the requirement of the national, the Data Protection Act of 2019, and that's why it's held by the government. That is CARO. CARO has now this data, and then where if you want to, they can now share that. This is now the first level. So I said it is four modules. Module 1, I said the farmer registration that has been properly been done well. Then module 2 is e-vulture, where if the government provide fertilizer, the fertilizer last year, particularly the short trains, was the most successful certified, subsidy fertilizer I've done since independence in many areas. Number one, the volume that was delivered to specific, you knew who the farmers are. Up to now, the farmers receive an SMS goes to, so that e-voucher ensure that you identify the farmer. If it is the seed, because the government has also been providing farmers with a certified seed of cotton, sunflower, again, you know who the farmers are. The third module on KIAMIS is the module on e-extension. As we go forward, we know can we now have the structured messages reaching the farmers and all that, all of them making sure they have that. And then finally is what we call the dynamic data, information, updating what is happening on the farm on a daily basis. So that's number one, that's what's called KIAMIS, and therefore it is structured to fit within our agriculture system in terms of from the ground. Then we have at the county level, counties establishing what we are calling the county agriculture statistics and marketing unit, that will be able to collect this data from the ground. So we already have people on the ground, we call the agripreneurs, collecting this data on a daily on a regular basis. That now is received at CARO, and then the counties can also receive it at their level, and they start using it for their decision making, for their day-to-day management of their affairs, for even highlighting do we have a problem? Are we likely to have a problem? Because if you see, like in a certain area, in your area, all the farmers have planted onions. You start thinking about, when is this onion coming to market? So the onions are coming in next week. Have you organized how they can be bought? So that's not how KIAMIS is. But the other thing from KIAMIS is what we're calling, as I said, the cooperative. Farmers do have a multi-value chain cooperative. So as you know, the farmers in Kenya don't grow. There's no coffee farmer in Kenya and dairy. A coffee farmer in Kenya is exactly the same. Maybe you find the same one is also doing dairy, is the same who does pottery. So they are different farmers in many cases. And then you'll find, maybe you can find a place very successful selling their milk through a cooperative, or their potato through, but then they are struggling to sell these other commodities. How do we make sure that within that area, they come up with that they can be able to address and aggregate all the price they have? Number two is, as I say, the government says access capital. They access capital. Make sure within there is now linked to a circle within that ward, because our lowest, I'll call it political unit, is a ward, where there's a unit of representation is a ward, where they elect a representative, and then different wards, then the count, then the constituency and upward. So if you start there, you're able to make sure that you're able to receive, to ensure that farmers are the issues have been properly canvassed, because the area a region of representation brings out issues in a more organized manner than just an administrative unit, because you find farmers people in this area will be saying, for you to give you a vote, you need to make sure you have. So you can find issues are very well canvassed at that area and at that ward, and therefore if they support at that area, you'll be able to support quite a number of areas. I've talked about KIAMIS. The fourth area is now agripreneurs. From the the late, I think the last time the government employed extension workers was like in 1986. And then, but then there was a bit when during 2008, and there was but not big numbers. If you go out now in all the counties and even the national, I think maybe Dr. Mudha is among the youngest in his department, and and he's like my age. So that's why we are guys that we are among. So that's how they are. But then how do we look at it in terms of ensuring that we provide more support in extension? The agripreneurs, these are individuals that the government now, working with the county government, will support to make sure that they are, at least you have about 10 per ward, that they can visit farmers at least on a monthly basis. Visit the farmer and find what are they, and then all they visit the farmers, they'll have a digital gadget that they update through Kiamis, update on the database what is happening, so that at any one time, the governor or the prime or the minister or the president can at a click of a button see what is happening in Keses, what is happening in Mogotio, what is happening in Kiambu, what is happening in Igembe. And some of these now, like maybe if you go to Kiamis, you look at it and see how many farmers are actually planting mogoka. So that when you say what will be the effect of that mogoka, because you look at it in that. How many farmers really grow mirai in this area? How many farmers grow cabbage in Mwea? How many farmers? That now provides, and because some of these, if it's tomatoes like horticulture, what they are growing today is good. But so having these individual young people on the ground, digital trade and properly supported, that feeding the data, they are not just feeding the data on the managed system, but they're also receiving support. If it is National Biosafety Authority have something they want to reach to the farm, it can go through that system. They can say, tell the farmer in this area, and then the farmers are able to receive that information and go forward. And then again, all this need to happen around the World Aggregation Center of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you talk of better, those are I call them the 3, 4, 5 of better. That is 3 pillars that increase. We say 3 pillars increasing agriculture. That is 3 pillars of. Increasing food security, reducing post-harvest losses, reducing imports, and increasing export. Those are the 3 pillars. Then the 4 strategic initiatives of what we're doing is organize farmers into cooperatives, increasing production and productivity, reducing post-harvest losses and increasing storage, and increasing value addition. And then the 5, how to do it, we say Kiamis, we say one cooperatives, we say we say SACCO, we talk of agripreneurs and aggregation point. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg to move. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daktari, and we truly appreciate your coming in and taking us through those value chains. We can find ourselves in one of the presentations by the Secretariat. We were a large number of state departments, and the message was, if you cannot find yourself in that frame, then you do not have a reason to be existing. And I'm glad that in so many of the portions that have been shown, we can show ourselves as NBA, the National Biosafety Authority. Now, Mwalimu is in the house, and there is only one Mwalimu in Kenyatta University. Registrar Research, Innovation and Outreach, Professor Richard Odwall, will take us through a presentation on how the modern biotechnology and biosafety is contributing to the economic transformation. I like also, before bringing Prof on board, to alert our partners, particularly from the private sector, that shortly after Professor's presentation, I will give you an opportunity to pitch before we can have a group photo and then lunch and go to see the exhibitions. We have few exhibitions this time. I think a number of institutions were not able to come forward for exhibitions. So I will be calling upon Bayer shortly after Professor's presentation, PBS, NRF, I can see colleagues from NRF here, AATF, Cotiva Agri-Science, ISA, ISAA, and the Grain Council to step forward 2 minutes each to do what is called pitching, to tell us who you are, what you do, and how what you do connects with what we are doing here, and therefore as part of pitching in terms of marketing. It is my pleasure now, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Richard Oduor, the Research Registrar at Kenyatta University. Karibu, Prof. You'll be assisted to mount that, yes.
Comment is online, so we wanted to recognize it so that you can be able to see.
The best is.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mugira, Chief Guest, the Chair of the Council, my Professor Kinyamario, of course, the board members, representative who has just given us the discussions around the better, bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and of course, invited guests, different ministries present, fellow colleagues in the university. Good morning. My name is Richard Oduor. I serve Kenyatta University as the Registrar of Research, Innovation and Outreach, but I also chair the Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium, which is a consortium that brings together experts in biotechnology from private and public universities. And this is very critical for us because it is important that we figure out how to deal with food security. I'm a molecular biologist with a bias on also crop development and, of course, drug discovery. So I will be talking about both the biotechnology application in food security, but I can also comfortably veer off in the medicine bit of things. I am privileged to be serving as a board member of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And I have served previously as the chair of the technical committee, and now in my second term and the final term, I'm serving as the chair of the Finance and Administration. And last week on Monday, we launched the Economic Survey 2024. And this is very important because we are talking about economic transformation agenda here. And in that particular content, if you never looked at it, globally we are doing very well as a country. And actually we are at 5.6. We are only beaten by the India. We even beat China in this regard. And this is where you ask yourself, how possible is that when you're not seeing the money in your pockets? That's that I know, and Roy is already smiling here and is wondering how realistic that is. I can tell you, the data does not lie. It might not have reached there, but there are certain dynamics that must be in place, right, to make the economics work. And why I'm bringing this here is because remember that this was one of the slides that I wanted to show here. If you look at the contributors to that 5.6 economic development, you realize that agriculture contributed 19.8%. So that tells you something, that truly, if 5.6 is the growth, and 19, almost 20, a fifth of that is contributed to by agriculture, then it is important that we start that conversation around agriculture very actively. And this is important. So I don't want to repeat this, and because I'm very happy that it has already been ably, and I'm very glad that I picked the very sections from that. It is that agriculture, which is one of the pillars. There is that bit around the micro, SMEs, and we are talking about also the affordable housing, which is always, we call it, and settlement, housing and settlement. And of course, there is a bit around the digital superhighway, and of course, economic, a creative economy, and finally, healthcare. Now, this is a slide you have already seen, or only that it was in a different format, but there's a section that has been captured here. Now, for me, what is important is the agricultural bit of it. And all of them, if you ask me, considering that I do a lot of research in this area of food security and health, I can tell you agriculture that is contributing 20% to our economy is key, and therefore we need to focus on it. But how this works is that if agriculture is stable, then the micro, small and medium enterprises, the trade will happen, because how will they trade? If, remember, there is this agriculture that is contributing to 1/5 of your entire growth, and therefore if you make it work in terms of crop production, livestock and fisheries, and therefore these people who are doing business are able to mingle. And at the same time, once they've done that, they have now the money. That money will be useful in terms of ensuring now they can afford the houses and even move with the normal other inputs that are required for that. Now, the digital superhighway is very interesting, and you may not know this, and this is very important for us. In genetic engineering, CRISPR-Cas9, and all these things we do in molecular biology, we require, for instance, sequencing. Right now, when you send your products or your DNA for sequencing, you send the real DNA. But it never comes back as DNA. It comes back as a sequence. So that sequence requires that there is a stable internet that will allow you, with the very good computers, high throughput computers, that are able to crush these numbers so that you get to know which section of this genome is responsible for what trait and for what reason. Very, very critical. If you're looking at mobile telephony, and I'm glad that he spoke before me, because what that means is precision agriculture, and I'll talk about that probably later on. Why should a farmer be struggling with a certain discoloration of the plant's leaf at this point in time? While all we require is that farmer to just take a photo of that, send it into this system. We should be having a depository of a lot of those different shades of colors that represent something, so that when this image comes in, it queries the default setting, the depository, and will click the matching. Once that happens, then it is also tagged to the data, so that the farmer knows when you see it is becoming yellow, then it means the soil is asking for phosphorus, and therefore trigger that to the phosphorus topping of fertilizers. These are things that are happening. The rest of the world are already there. We are still left here discussing them. And therefore, for me, allow me today to focus on food security. And when we talk about food security, good people, we are talking about availability. Food must be available. And availability means in its quality and quantity. It must be available. But even if it's available, you must be able to access it. That is when we talk about food security. The food could be on the other side. For instance, right now, if the other part of the country that are cut off because of the roads and the rains, the food could be the next door there, but you can't get it. So it doesn't help you that it's seated on the other end. So accessibility also means a bit of money. It can also be available in the market, but you can't afford it. So that is very critical. So these 4 things, which we can call pillars of the food security, are critical for us. There is also utilization. Yes, it is available. You have bought it. It is now with you, but how do you convert it in such a way that you can use it longer? Because for instance, cassava, you pick it, within just a few, 24 hours, after 2-3 days, it starts discoloring itself, and that means it is degenerating. So how do we deal with it? That therefore means that there is also need for what we call utilization, convert it into different methods. How do you store it? We have a lot of food sometimes, but because of poor storage system, we are having aflatoxin, we are getting some of these foods degenerating, and that is very unfortunate. So utilization is equally very, very critical. And finally, stability. Stability is where we talk about how stable are we as a country, that a small little crisis or a catastrophe does not really project or subject the entire country into panic. For instance, we've just had the rains. and the flood was here. I can tell you, as a country, we're already panicking about the intended, drought that is going to we are going to have, and a lot of things. We just had a bit of a problem with probably the kind of fertilizers that we are having. The entire country is already going into panic that we will not get a lot of food and all that. And those are small little things that stable economies and stable countries should be able not to really struggle about. So what does that mean? We must bring this country to a point where small little thing, the drought, the locusts, and all this does not subject us into a lot of panic. That is when we talk about stability, and food is said to be secure, and we are secure as a country. Now, having said that, so what is stopping us from really being food secure? It is because there are other challenges. The first one, Chief Guest, is that we are struggling with climate change, and this country is big around the climate change. And if you can look at it, you can see we keep enjoying holidays. But I can tell you, much as we are enjoying on this other side as holidays, that tree that is planted now and over a period of time will change the ecosystem and the climatic agroecology of this country in due course. So that is very, very critical. But what climate change has also done, it has made it very difficult for us, because you realize areas that were warm are getting warmer. Areas that were cold getting colder. We are seeing floods, we are seeing tornadoes, we are seeing winds, we are seeing, all these kind of crazy things happening. Those things are very interesting. From where we sit, anything that has life will respond differently to an environment. We call it epigenetics. So epigenetics is whereby any living organism, based on the environment, will trigger the expression profiles of the genome so that it produces itself in a particular way. That is very interesting, and later on I'll unpack how this is very important. So, as we are complaining here about the rains, I can tell you there are also other places that there are, drought. At 9:30 today, and because I said earlier on that I sit in the KNBS board, in 2019 I was the chair of the technical committee, and we ran a census in this country. Was deeply involved in that because as a chair of the technical committee. So our population that time, 46.7, all that, but that was 5 or so years ago. We are now halfway there. So clearly we are approaching 50, if not past, as at now. And that's the truth. But if you look at 9:30 today, the global population was at 8.112 billion. That was from, at 9:30 today. But also from midnight to 9:30 today, the births today were around 146,000. And the deaths as at 9:30 today was 66,000 globally. And remember, this is a very conservative number, because I am suspecting in my village somebody has already delivered and was not put in there. So this is just to tell you that please don't celebrate these numbers as yet. They are more than this. And that is something we need to watch. So what does this mean? It means that we have a lot of trouble to deal. We have a lot of mouths that we need to feed. But also, like I started, if 65% of Africa's labor is coming from agriculture, we should be scared a little bit. Also, what we need to also realize is that the farmers are aging. That is something that should worry us. The youth that are actually more than, a quarter, more than half of this population is actually also preferring white-collar jobs. Now, who is going to take part in the pillar that contributes, 20% of the growth of this country? So what does that mean as a country? It means that we need right now to start looking at how do we make agriculture trendy. How do we make it swaggy? How do we put money back in agriculture? And if globally you go out there and we travel, you will be amazed that the richest people are farmers. And you would want these young fellows, I'm looking around to get one, I'm not seeing many of the young fellows, but I've seen one from somewhere. How can this young boy, and because I teach in the university, I keep teasing them and telling them, please go, and when you are organizing alphabets for your future, wife, why can't you go and say that, by the way, I am a farmer? They can't find that. It's not trendy. You will not be looked at twice. It has been stigmatized. And yet there are other parts of this world, when you say you are a farmer, they are like, oh, so you have those big machines harvesting or whatever. It is trendy. We haven't. And even in the university, we need to start, I need to see those ladies slaying with hoe, they let them slay, and then let all those things and make it trendy. Instead of TikTok, I want to see them, TikToking, with all these things. Let them hashtag fertilizer that, by the way, guys, do you know that there is, NPC coming in? Yeah, look at this. I'm trying. It becomes very interesting. But we are not doing that because we feel agriculture, and because we grew up from villages where we were struggling. You are being woken up at 4 to go and weed before you wash your legs to go to school. That wasn't very good. That was child labor, and we stigmatized it. And when we got the opportunity to leave the villages, we don't want to go back there because we imagine what happened when we were young. That narrative needs to change because that is where it is. So what do we say? Because of that, we are now realizing that we are struggling with not only food availability. If you don't eat well, you will not have a better health. So you remember that say that they keep saying, that you eat well or you will eat medicine as your food. There's a way they say it. So if you can eat properly and foods that have a lot of dietary connotations, then you are likely to really do well. Now, food security is big, and it's not only a preserve of this country. It is global, and it is an area of interest. Globally, there is interest in food and food security. And because I've scanned around in this plenary, I haven't seen any person who is under 18 years. Allow me to tease your mind with this photo. So I want you to watch it very carefully. I'm also seeking and asking you that please withdraw your mind from horizontal acrobatics and just tell me what exactly is happening here. If you become fair with your analytics, you will realize that there is nothing here apart from just interest. It is just a difference of interest. Everybody is resting their hands where their interests are. So, while the man is resting his hands on the sitting allowances, the lady is also resting her hands on the pockets. And this is a couple. They are happy. Actually, they are looking at the nature. They are very happy. But while you think this is a joke, I can tell you this is exactly what happens in the global arena. And if you doubt that, look at this. This is a question, and this is now global politics. The question is, what is your opinion on the shortage of food in the rest of the world? That is the question. And different countries, there is America, there is Arabia, Europe, EU, and of course Africa. They are responding to that question. What is your opinion on the shortage of food in the rest of the world? Arabia is actually, in that nice question, is actually asking, what is opinion? Like that is their interest in that particular question. That is their worry. Then America is wondering, what is the rest of the world? Because it's about America. Is there any other country apart from the US? That is their belief. That is their interest in that very question. And at the same time, Europe is also asking, what is shortage? Because they never lack. I lived in the UK for years, and I can tell you, there were a lot of wastages in that country. And they don't care. There is a lot. And actually, food is the cheapest thing in EU. Then, of course, Africa, we also have a concern. We are also asking, what is food? Because we also don't get it. Now, if you ask one question like that, good people, and you get that kind of response, then it only means that everybody globally is actually on their own. And for that reason, that is why I keep wondering, why are we sleeping as Africa while we should be taking advantage of technologies that are available? Why do we sleep? Why are we sleeping? Why can't we be strategists? Who should come in and open our eyes so that we get to know that as we are dealing with these stories, there are more interest and other people are reaping the benefits. And let me allow you to say this. We slept through a few things. And let me give you the narrative. We slept when the rest of the world was using coal to industrialize themselves. We were sleeping. Coal, right now, cannot be, it is classified as dirty energy. We have enough coal in this country, many of it in Kitui and all that. Right now, we can't mine it, and we can't even use it. Why? Because the global decision has been made that it is dirty energy. So who is paying for us who are here with our coal that we never use to industrialize ourselves? So, and who are we blaming? We can't blame anyone. We can't even blame the rest of the world because we were here when that call was being actually being utilized. But what were we doing? We were wondering, how is this electricity popping up from that call? Are you sure these guys are not competing with God because these are looking like stars? You know, this discussion, and we wasted time there. We sat through that technology. Right now, I can tell you, coal is being decommissioned globally. So we lost on that opportunity. Something else again happened. Later on, when now the Green Revolution started, there was a lot more of, you know, mechanization, fertilizers, everything. This thing we are doing now, some of them were started in 1950. You know, Norman Borlaug started this almost 70 years ago. This is where the whole mechanization started. India benefited, Asia benefited, Mexico benefited, the US benefited. Us guys were still wondering, these tractors, we were already actually abusing our cows to be pulling for us the cut because that's how we were plowing. Now, 70 almost years now, is when now tractors are in the villages and counties are trying to deal with that. But again, as that is happening, there is again another caveat, good people. Now the caveat is carbon credit. You are being asked, your vegetables, how much of carbon footprint has it actually emitted for it to be allowed in EU? Again, we have lost. And we were just here. That's not news. So, and again, let me allow you to tell you something else we are just about again to lose. It is called AI, artificial intelligence. Do you know how it's coming? And let me focus on the university. There is ChatGPT, and it's a very interesting platform. All the universities in this country are very slow into adopting it. Because what are they saying? That these students, how will they, if we allow this ChatGPT, how will they use their brains? Do you think they will be, you know, this is computer-generated probably scores and all that. And that narrative is again being set up for us now. We will want to fantasize with it for another 15, 20 years. We will lose. Let me tell you the easiest way. I can tell you, writing a speech using ChatGPT is the easiest thing that you can ever imagine. You only need to clarify and purify your content. That I want to write a speech for the keynote address on biosafety, biotechnology and biosafety. Please focus, thank the sponsors, thank whatever. As you clean, that is where the knowledge is. Because that is you. Because even before you write your letter, your speeches, that is where the knowledge is. When you filter that nicely, my friend, the kind of speech that will pop up within a few seconds, you will not believe it. And look at that. So we have saved your time to think about something else. Because what is this special thing about a speech? It is about just, reading something that is speaking to the audience and the thematic area of the area of connotation. And that is what we are saying. Now here, and I keep telling my university, for instance, why would you, the hated area in teaching is marking. You have 1,000 scripts to mark. Yet when you are marking, there's nothing special about marking apart from comparing what the student has written vis-a-vis a marking scheme. There's nothing special about that. So pick your marking scheme, fix it in a system, so that let the other student bring the exam paper, fix it in a system, let that thing be compared to a marking scheme, which you manually compare, and when you do it for 4 hours, the last people you just now tick, because you are also getting tired, let the computer deal with it. And then the idea now comes in, what is the ratio of how the variance from the default setting becomes the score? And you move so fast so that we can be left to do research. But what are we hearing? This AI, our money, will be stolen because it can give somebody else's voice. And even the president's voice can actually be mimicked and sent to a CS. And then the CS can be told, please approve these billions. And the billions will be approved. And then the entire country, that is how the narrative is popping up. And actually, there are such kind of situations also. And if we had time, I can show you that. But this is where it is. The Internet of Things and all these things that I'll talk about shortly, I can tell you are very interesting. Right now, the best way of doing medicine is that we can put a small chip, you swallow it, as it goes down, we are able to see what is happening in there. But I can tell you right now, if you are told that you are saying, these guys want to monitor us, they want to know whatever, and yeah, I don't trust them. Do you know when they put that chip on you, it's about security. Then you ask yourself, if there is a chip right now, and I want to ask you, if we have a chip right now that can actually sense when there is cancer cells start to cell divide and it is put on your body, who will refuse? so that we get to know when there is abnormality in cell division, because that's what cancer is all about, in cell division and control cell division. It senses that very quickly. We will put it. Our ladies are already ahead on this. There are things they fix there for 5 years, those contraceptives. They're already on this, and this will just be a problem with men. Because we feel when something is there, are you dealing with some of my ability as a man? And what are these people? We start thinking about a population. These people want to affect our population. Because the rest of the world is aware that Africa, we are very conserved. We will be treated to those narratives until further notice. So we need to very quickly start thinking about how do we jump into technologies as they come. And now this is the tenet of today's discussion. There is a technology we have lost for the last, from 1994 to now, those are 30 years. The first GMO product was commercialized in 1994. 30 years later, and before you commercialize a GMO product, there is 15 years of research. So add that to the 30 before 1994. And then the thinking about genetic engineering. So as we are talking right now, the GMO technology is fairly over 50 years. So that is a technology that we are still at this point in time discussing while we are moving to genome editing. We have left that technology, that debate that has been happening. We have not benefited from it. But what happens anytime you mention this technology of GMO, what do we usually see? A confusion of debate. And it is so deliberate. So deliberate, and if you can be able to decipher what that photo is saying, is that the fire is burning freely, the pan is cooking the shell, and the egg itself is on the pan, and there is, it's just a confusion. This is how the debate around GMO is in this country. And it is worrying, because we cannot be here discussing 50-year-old technology this way. And you know why? We are told, Africa is the diversity. You have the best climate. Go organic. So what does that mean? That's a narrative again. You have been made to believe, to be comfortable in misery. Because that child, as you can see, is very happy, by the way. He's not even bothered with these things you are talking about. And therefore, that is the socialization. And the person is very happy. But is it true the right thing as a country? Is it really true that we are still here saying or banning a technology that is 50 years old? And then you ask yourself, when will we ever realize that Africa has what it takes? We are the big brothers here. Look at the number of youth that we have. Look at the population that we have. Look at the diversity, biodiversity. This is the native asset. And now the big thing is about looking at the gene sequences of all the bios that we have, or what we call the biomes, or the biota, or whatever comes first. And also look at the land that we have. These are strengths that we have as Africa, and therefore we need to move pretty quickly on this regard. And every time I get to this point, I really thank this gentleman. This is called Isaac Newton. What this guy said in the third law of motion is that action and reaction are equal and opposite. What that simply means is that we are alive here because some people have bothered to die. I'm standing because you bothered to sit. And that is what it means, that while we are struggling with hunger here, there is a child somewhere who is actually being overfed. The same world. And this is when we are struggling with the drought, there are cows that are getting more than enough. So at the same time, and you remember last time when we had a lot of drought episode, that time when we were struggling, do you know Nigeria was flooding? And even right now, as we are flooding right now, the southern part of Africa is actually droughting. So that is what actually Isaac Newton actually says in his third law. That if our maize, that is maize that cannot survive drought, but I can tell you there is actually a grass that grows on top of a rock. It's called resurrection plant. That formed part of my PhD. To find out how can a grass, which is in the same family with maize, can grow on the rocks and our maize, and we don't eat that grass. By the way, if we choose to eat grass, we'll stop going to the lab. Because there is always enough something being produced at a particular point in this world. The world provides everything. So sometimes it's the logistics, sometimes it's your preference, because there is no reason why somebody, and without any, and I'm saying this looking directly into the eye of my CEO here, Roy, that a gentleman from Meru will struggle to eat omena. Will struggle to eat omena, which I find very seriously a delicacy. But I will also be struggling with githeri. Then, and because of that, I would rather, if we are serving omena and githeri, there's a trouble there. So you will find that I will be struggling and he will be struggling. Yet, that githeri or that omena has the same proteins, and the proteins are made up of 20 amino acids, and they are constant. And scientists will tell you. Amino acids are not differing because they are now in snakes and others are on frogs and rats. No, they are the same. And that is why, if you remember, there was a time some very senior citizen told people that if there is hunger, why can't you eat rats? And this entire country actually bashed the gentleman. I remember that very well. But from where I sat, I was just a bit naive that time. I should have supported him. Because there is nothing wrong with rats. Whatever is stopping us from eating rats is our culture. Otherwise, if it is roasted and removed, how many times have we eaten donkey meat and we don't die? Because their meat is meat. The amino acids are constant. And that is how we should look at these things. Chinese figured that a while ago. They realized that anything that is alive just requires a few biomolecules. Carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids now, and a bit of water and nutrients. That's all you require. So glucose from a snake is not different from glucose from sugarcane. The structure is the same. And that's why Chinese have one rule. The first rule is, don't take anything that is moving for granted. It could be food. Okay, so as we proceed on with this, if you are struggling with striga, imagine there is something that actually can eat that striga. If you are struggling with aflatoxin is very interesting. That fungi is actually just resting on that your maize, not because it's eating. Aflatoxin does not eat that maize. It's just finding a conducive atmosphere to allow it procreate, so that when it produces the spores and the pores, it's able now to procreate, and that is survival for the fittest. So what do? Because that fungi has a genetic system, we can be able to figure out what is this section we can RNA silence so that it doesn't produce that. It can still stay so long as it's not producing the pores. That's the thinking around here. And look at the maize lethal necrotic diseases. You know, and of course there is also stem borer. Now this stem borer is very interesting. It just moves around and eats from your maize. But we are also saying there is something that stops it. Just like in medicine. You know, I find it very interesting, good people, that we are very quick to go to the doctors to take malaria, you know, when you have malaria, to be given drugs, which is specific. I don't know how you forget that that drug that you have been given, fancied or whatever it is still being swallowed, and it is passing through your stomach and goes into the blood and roams around the blood looking for, you know, plasmodium. And then it gets that is what it's targeting. And you think that we are doing that for human beings, and we are unable really to actually have the same for maize. So that when this insect is roaming around, it eats maize, it stops it, so that your maize can grow happily. So that is a big problem, and it's so bad, apparently. Look at the cassava. Cassava hides its roots down there, they are tumors. But also there are other cassavas that are, and in plural, that are very bitter. And when they are bitter, it's not because they like being bitter. It is because they are also defending themselves from us from eating them. That is the truth. And there is a pathway there called linamarin pathway for biochemists in the house. When you look at the committed step, there is a particular committed step there that we have decided as a molecular biologist to RNA silence so that it doesn't produce the bitterness, so that we are able to enjoy it. Because if it doesn't produce that bitterness, then it will be so eaten so quickly and it will go extinct. And I keep joking on this podium every time I stand here to tell people, please just get to know that plants don't know that we are eating them. Maize has no clue that we are waiting for the cobs. When it will ever know that we are waiting for that cob, it will start hiding it on the roots. You will never see that cob again. Because there's no plant that is waiting to make for you food for you to eat. Even the cows, they just have no clue. When you tell them, and that's why if they realize, and you have experienced this, if they realize that your behavior is getting closer to almost killing them, they become very real, and they can actually hurt you if they get to know. And the pigs are the most notorious if they get to know that you're going to slaughter them. And for that reason, we are saying science is here and is very important. And that is where now we bring in biotechnology. This is very, very important. And when you are talking here, the presentation for the beta was talking here, was being presented here. I actually went, making this slide I was just making when you were just there, running very quickly, because I found that very interesting, that there is already a platform where we can actually consolidate, we get to know where our farmers are. Because when you get to know that, then precision agriculture comes in. What is precision agriculture? It means that you can get to know, using GPS and using the drones and satellite and imagery, get to know up to an axis, a point, that this place has this X amount of nutrients, and therefore this is the right crop to plant here. So you will find that let's leave maize for the Kitale people and all that area to give us enough maize, as in the northeastern. Let's not struggle with maize because it's not that. Let's do the jahe. If that jahe is the one that is right there, let's do it in a manner that we can meet in the market and then compare notes. That is the thinking around precision agriculture. And it's also about how do you, irrigate just largely. The soil dries at different point. There is a section, if you have, 100,000 acres of land, you don't expect that the land here is the same as, the dryness of this soil here is the same as the one that is 100 acres away from here. So what does that mean? You do precision irrigation, which means that the moisture and how it is drying can be timed in such a way that it sends the data to you so that they trigger the automated system so that irrigation happens, rather than opening water for every section, even areas that don't require that water at that point in time. Then we talk about smart farming and Internet of Things. What this means is we don't need to keep bothering in there. And right now the thinking is that sometimes we can even grow model crops. You can even have tobacco, that when you plant your maize, you plant also tobacco there. And that tobacco is not for you to harvest. It is just a biological thing that is actually sensing for you the environment, that now the roots are drying, please add this. So it is a communication that is happening in the middle of the rest of the crops. That is precision agriculture still happening, and Internet of Things and automation. We are talking about biotechnology and genetic engineering. This is the technology that is 50 years old, I can tell you without a doubt. And because of the 50 years-ness of that technology, it's actually is going extinct. And I can tell you without a doubt, the conventional GMOs that we have, where you are picking a gene from another source and putting on that other one for purposes of tolerance, is moving. We are now in something we are calling genome editing, CRISPR-Cas9, which means that we don't need to pick those narrative that we have been told all along, that you probably could be picking a gene from a snake and putting it into Sukuma Wiki, very bad, we don't want to. All that story is now gone, because we won't go to the snake. We will just stay in the Sukuma Wiki and ask Sukuma Wiki, please, this is the profile of your genome. We want to sequence it and annotate every section of it. And because you are closer to cabbage and you are Sukuma Wiki, what is this thing that cabbage does better than you do? We compare the sequences. We say it is here. Edit this section only. Leave it in there. You have not touched it. You have not brought a DNA from any source, but that is your Sukuma Wiki. That's the chaos. That is where we are. And this is already happening in this very, very country. So this is how other things are happening. We have robotics and automation. That's a new technology. We have artificial intelligence, where you analyze data in a way that you can predict even the behavior of the plants. We are talking about machine learning, very important. We are talking about vertical farming and control environment. What this also means is that we have realized that the plant, by the way, does not require the soil. The plant is only putting the roots down there because they are looking for nutrients. That is how hydroponics has popped up. That now you just put the plant, suspend it, hold its stem, allow it to float on the water, mix the nutrients, we know them. So it just sucks it. It makes the roots weaker, but the stems are happy, and we are only waiting for that cob. That is what hydroponics is all about. And of course, we also talk about sustainable farming practices. We are talking about the blockchain technology, where you trace a particular food from the farm to the table. That is also in there. And alternative protein and supplies. What this means is, good people, when we are eating beef, we don't eat beef that we are cutting from a moving cow. The cow will have died by the time we are eating the beef. So what you are getting is a section of a dead cow. Now, this is what people are thinking. Surely, it is not, let's leave our cows for purposes of their life. They can enjoy their life, and when they die, they're given a send-off that is befitting their existence in this world. What are we saying? That how a cow grows the beef, it requires just a single cell. The pluripotent cells that are in the stem cells that create some of these things that we are talking about are known. So you only need to go to the cow, pick the cells that start cell dividing, put them in an environment that is mimicking the growth of a cow. It will make for you that beef. That beef will not be edible in this country because people are saying that's plastic. Which plastic? It is not plastic. It is just the culture that is now stopping you from testing, the innovations. And that is where we are heading. So that's called regenerative, in medicine, we are calling it regenerative medicine, where you are thinking about creating organs for purposes of, if right now we come and tell you, you have a problem with your heart, you are stuck because nobody has another spare heart to give you. Because what will they be left with? That is why human beings, we have started saying, we have looked at the body and we have realized the organs that are in double, like the kidney, we keep saying, we can give one. You see, you're only giving one because you are left with another one. But if there is none, what do you do? If right now I come here and I tell you, and that heart of yours was picked from a genome, there is a gene that is actually regenerating, and the system of developmental biology is now happening. It's the biggest thing right now. We are wondering, why are we struggling with a heart that is not working? Why can't we go to your own cells, because they are there, and pick it, put it in a system? This will be unique to you, your own heart, so that if this one is making, wasting time, you can have spare parts. But if I say that, what are you thinking about? These guys are playing God. Which God can you play, surely? Yet even that idea of the cell is God's idea. Even the person cutting it is the God's, person. So it's a discussion. And for me, my position right now is we need to work out very seriously about our beliefs and how it is impacting our adoption, speed. Because we need to discuss that. And that is why what we do in genetic engineering is largely just something that happens within the nucleus. So what is the basics here? And for those people who probably have not been into biotech class, what do you need to know? Because your thinking is about your name. But I'm also saying, because of all that, sometimes when you're picking those alphabets, you can promote. Chief guest, if right now you get to your house and you hear something, you are told that it is now your turn. That statement doesn't make sense until I bring the context. It's your turn now to be promoted, to become a CS. It can also mean the same. But if I tell you it is now your turn, and I tell you, you are not overly very special. Even choppers, do you remember so and so? These things crash even. That same statement that was supposed that it's now your turn, and then somebody tells you, we've looked around and your competencies are really very good. It's now your turn. It means something else. But again, if I say it's now your turn, but you remember, even the choppers fall, they crash. They crash very quickly, and the roads are not very safe as you might think. That is now your turn changes. This is the same thing why these alphabets must be controlled, how you write with. You don't go on writing that. That is the same reason why the use of the genome must be controlled, and that is what triggers the very existence of NBA. That the genome, yes, you have it, you know how to manipulate, but we have to regulate you. so that you don't break for us maize where you have picked the gene that are responsible for the venom of a snake and put it into the maize and target it into the kernel. And that is what the NBA is doing. So the thinking here is, it's not about the badness of the alphabets. Remember, we still have these alphabets, and these are the letters that we still use up to now, even to scare people. But they are still existing. Why? Because we have ways of getting to know if you are threatening people, we take you to the police. So we have made those regulatory systems, and that is how I look at it. More importantly also is for us to know, and where we get a lot of our motivation is that we have seen the application of this technology in the health, and the medical people are in this house. We are seeing it in the Ebola. We have seen it being used diabetes. There is no non-GMO diabetes globally. Every person who is diabetic right now is enjoying GMO insulin, and nobody talks about it. And you talk about Ebola, the drug that was used for Ebola was actually made from transgenic tobacco. When you look about the Gaucher's disease, which is the disease for the degenerative of the bones, is actually expressed in transgenic or GMO carrot. And recently, we were all here when COVID was here. Are you aware that when we were queuing, we were being injected by the DNA, the RNA, the Pfizer stuff? It was DNA. And where were we? Where were these people against the technology? Why was it convenient for them not to pick that up? It is because the discussion around this food security and the GMO technology is a narrative that is being well advanced, and we are sleeping on it because we are not really keen on it. And for instance, and I would say this for purposes of those who are Muslims, before we used to pick insulin from pigs. We would slaughter a pig, purify, and then use it, because pigs and human beings are the closest. But now, look at what we were doing to our Muslim brothers. Do you think they will touch that your pig insulin? They wouldn't. And that meant that if we didn't have this technology, we were losing all of them. That is how now we asked very basic question that, Roy, if you are not diabetic, then it means your genes that are responsible for insulin is clean. So what we did was pick it, cut it, put it in an expression cassette, then transfer it into E. coli, a bacteria. And there was a reason why it was picked E. coli, because E. coli is already existing in your stomach, the things you're calling normal flora, so that you don't come back and say, why are you expressing it in Salmonella typhi that causes typhoid? You know, those things were already thought of a bit early, so that when we are now expressing the insulin in E. coli, everything else works. And that is why we have GMO insulin globally, and nobody is talking about that. So as we do this, please, this is what these guys keep telling us. They are saying that we need to go organic. Have you listened to the guys who are against this technology? They tell you organic. Why is organic more expensive and more preferred in the rest of the world? Organic foods have become actually a sign of affluence. It's a swag. Actually, you can use it to organize alphabets for your future family members. That, by the way, I only do organic food, and it's acceptable, as a swag. It has nothing. This is what organic means, by the way. Let's go back to where we were. Let's not somebody tell you that we go organic. Let's all of us go here. This is what is organic. It's not cooked. You go hunt, get it when it is still organic in the field, eat it raw, and if you are lucky with some fire, that's where it is. It's not true. And when we started domesticating even the cows, remember cows were also roaming out there until we just started now domesticating them. Biotechnology started them. So there is no reason why as a country we are scared about this thing. Why? Because we have facilities, and I will tell you shortly, we have human capacity. The kind of PhDs we have trained and masters are enormous in this country. We have actually regulatory systems. That is why NBA is calling us here, to keep telling us that we are here and regulating you. We even are better off as a country that we have actually appeals board, which is something else beyond the decision of NBA, that if you have a problem, you can still go to appeals board. This is not normal in other parts of the world. There's once you don't like that, go to court. Nothing around the appeals board. And also the government goodwill. That last bit was what we have been struggling with all through. We are very lucky that this current government is so keen, and we have the best goodwill around this technology. And that is why you don't hear us a lot more talking. Right now, we are just wondering, where do we play with what? How do we make sure that we don't make a lot more of noise? This is good. And with that now, we have a lot of things. And what they keep saying is that, we don't trust NBA. And I keep wondering, where is this organization that is tightly regulated and with the best of the competencies as NBA? The first chair of the board of that was Professor Kinyua. That was a PhD and was deep into this science. That is actually the inaugural chair of this NBA. And if you look at the leadership and the CEOs of NBA, the first one, the Dr. Runui, the second one, Professor, Dorrington Ogoi, the third one is seated here, PhD holder, Dr. Roy, and the chair seated there is a professor. So what is this thing? And it's almost clear that actually NBA, you must have a PhD. And I can tell you, their officers, all of them are masters and above. And I look into this room and I'm wondering, where is this organization apart from the university where there is that concentration of scholarship? There is none. And NBA is just oozing it with a lot of ease. And where they feel they need those experts, we are available and many others. And they draw from it, even if you look at how it is constituted in terms of a board. All the regulatory agencies are bringing their expertise in it. And the decision that is therefore made in that board should be overarching. So this idea that there are also other stumbling blocks are not making sense to some of us. And for you to know, we have 4 laboratories in this country that are deeply doing genetic engineering. We have one at Kenyatta University, and it was the first in 2004. Then we have one in Il Rebecca, we have one in Calro, and we have one in Isipe. And it is important that we know, because people will tell you this GMO is coming from the West. Which West? In Il Rebecca, which is now Ilri because the Becca part of it dissolved, that is where a lot of things happened around cassava, banana, and plantain. If you talk about Isipe is now dealing with a lot of Drosophila and animal cells. You talk about Calro is now, and it's even the default setting for the beta systems that we are talking about. That is one organization that has a lot of expertise in there. Is the one that spearheaded the cotton, BT cotton, and now the BT maize and all that. All those things are happening, and also part of it now the cassava, the VICA project, and all these things are happening around the Calro. Now at Kenyatta University, this was the first, laboratory, and I remember doing, part of my master's in that lab, and that was in 2004. If you look at that, and for the years that it has existed, and it was then 2004 and commissioned in 2005 by the late Professor George Saitoti, who was the Minister of Education that time, 20 years of doing research in on genetic engineering, and you still hear people telling you that this is coming from the West. And let me just unpack a few things for you. We have, over the years, made GMOs of maize, sweet potato, cassava, groundnut, sorghum, rice, tomato, and pigeon pea. These DNAs are available. These seeds are available in the lab. That work must be done regulated by NBA. And this is happening here locally. So all we are saying is that, yes, we are making vehicles. There are other companies that are making vehicles that have experience, like the Toyota. This country is 70% Toyota, and we don't make them. We own the IP that we keep saying. So when we go out there and say we can also import a few of these GMOs as we build our own, then it becomes a problem, and you're being asked, who is owning the technology? Whoever owns, it's a discussion that we need. All this, and I'm looking forward one day, if the government wants to do this, and now that the leadership is here, please bring us in one hall. Bring the aunties, let them say whatever they want to say. We will say our bit. Please mix this thing and let's make a ruling on that table. You see, you will get a lot more responses from this. So what have we been doing over the years? We are looking at diseases, insect pests, drought, and all that. And I won't go into the science. These are how the genes are labeled. They are never ATG, whatever. You just get the names that are derived from different places. But more importantly, good people, I want you to know that we are so good as a country that we are actually building capacity for other countries. Those were my PhD students. The first one was from Tanzania. The second one is Ethiopia. The third one is from Sudan. They came, they came with their germplasm. We genetically improved them. They left with them. And yet we are still here discussing. And that particular point, there was a ban. Then look at all these are PhDs. These are people who are, that one is dealing with the drought. This one is dealing with the striga, the Eric. And, the other one, Alan, was dealing with more or less like making antibiotics for maize so that when the stem borers come, that's what we are calling a technology we call aptamas. When you look at the other one is now talking about aflatoxin. Those two, they are dealing with aflatoxin. We have maize that will resist the aflatoxin. What we are only finding is that the stocks are shorter, meaning we need to get to know on one of them whether the gene that we edited was overlapping around that section. And that's just a small little thing that we just edit and we are good to go. We are looking at the funding. Professor Wilton Binder, that was my student, and he was looking at drought stress. Nzaro, also my student, was looking at the roots. What it means, this is what we are asking ourselves. You know, mango trees never dry even if there is no water. Ask yourself why. So we are asking ourselves very basic questions. If you elongate the roots, if you have maize that has got 5 meters of roots going down, do you think it will dry? Do we even eat the roots? So what is wrong with elongating the roots of maize to go get water down there? Yet you are eating mangoes with longer roots and you've never died. So at what point did it become very dangerous? So these are the questions we are asking. And of course, we are talking about Striga. And of course, again, Steve Runo, Prof. Runo is big on the Striga and a very important key fellow. And of course, Neondo that is also Striga. And of course, this is now cassava, mosaic disease, and brown stick. But also, you will hear a lot of people telling you, these things are not here. This is just a 2020 sort of snapshot of the different GMOs that are in this country and being tested in different parts. And NBA is here to give that information. But again, you will also hear them telling you, why are we in a rush? You know, the rest of the world are not taking these GMOs and whatever. And you ask them, really, South Africa picked GMO in 1998. I stayed in the University of Cape Town for 4 years. I can tell you, we were eating these GMOs, and I'm still waiting for these things to happen. These bad things that happen if you eat GMO. It is not serious. So in the southern part of Africa, we have those three, Swatini and those Mozambique stuff and Malawi happening down there. Of course, then in East Africa, we have Kenya, we have Ethiopia and Sudan up there. In the West Africa, we have actually Nigeria and a bit of Ghana in there. But interestingly, Nigeria, which accounts for a quarter of the population of Africa, picked this technology so quickly. They came here for benchmarking in this country. They went and commercialized pigeon pea, the cowpea, and they are now the world's largest exporter of cowpea. But here we are still banning, as we are talking. And those guys, Mustafa's and the team, and Margaret is here, they have empowered those people, and now that country is reaping a lot of it. So this is where I find it very interesting. How do we get to a discussion? If you have listened to that presentation, why are we still here? Why are we not unpacking this? What happened in this regard? Is it that people know that this technology is good, but they still ignore it? Is it because the aunties are just so good that they did a good work before us? So here, did these KPLC people come and mount this transformer? Or this person built the house on the transformer knowingly? So what is the story here? That is the story of the GMO in this country. And it is worrying us because we have allowed a lot of interesting things. There is a belief in this country that even the chicken that we are eating are GMO. And I keep wondering, where are they getting the information from? Anything that is seemingly is very big is assumed to be GMO. The chicken that we eat, and they ask you a very interesting question, how come those chicken within 6 weeks, they are already ready for being eaten? And we have been seeing chicken that could take even a whole year before getting, and I tell them, that's very basic knowledge. Those your chicken that were taking 1 year before it develops a good thigh or what you call drum for eating was because we had allowed them to go out there and look for ants to eat. What we are doing right now, we have made these chicken slay queens where we build the room for them, we put the lightings and the heat and good food. And within that good food, we also put growth hormones. Because what is the idea? The idea is that they grow fast, we sell them. So I tell them the same thing. If we want to sell you on the basis of weight and size, we know what to do with you. In the morning, we give you 1 liter of cooking oil, you drink for breakfast. At 10, we get you 30 sausages of beef sausages, you eat. Then at lunchtime, we actually give you the entire pork, or something that is too oily, eat. Within just 3 weeks, we will see some appreciation of this. And we sell you on that. We will weigh you and sell you. But have we touched your DNA? So if you give birth to a child, will that child look like that particular without eating? And that's what we keep saying. Listen, people are confusing chemical eating patterns and all that to this thing. And it's not true. They will tell you that, listen, the GMO guys, those guys inject very bad things. Actually, they want to control our population. Let me say this here, and please trust me. I have done genetic transformation all my life. There is no method of genetic transformation that looks like this. If this was true, then in the morning when you ate, cereals, because you are eating them with the DNA, it was in there, you will be actually developing leaves. If you eat beef and your rice, you should be growing horns. What happened to the DNA that you've been eating? It can't. There is a very serious semi-conservative nature of the DNA that is very interesting. And these are the stories that we see out there. We see the aunties actually beating us in terms of how they are communicating. And the worst being, they tell you that it causes cancer. And why cancer? I keep wondering, why did you pick cancer? Just because you think it is now a disease that is killing many of us and we don't have the, the drugs for them? That is why you are picking cancer. Otherwise, if it's causing genetic mutation, then it actually should cause even night blindness, because those things are also guided by the DNA. So, the things that we need to know about the GMO, these are the fears that people have out there. GMOs cause cancer. GMO seeds do not germinate, and therefore they want to control us. GMO cause impotence, and I don't know why impotence is picked here, because they know when they touch this, men will be running away. It causes infertility. And when let me tell you, those two, if it is true that GMO cause those two, impotence and infertility, then we will not sell it as a food. You will not afford that GMO. We will actually rebrand that GMO and sell it in pharmacy. Because the kind of money and research that is happening in generating contraceptives, and I spent years in Pfizer making drugs, I can tell you, we will be, if it causes infertility, we will actually be now working on what we are calling formulation and feeding pattern, so that if you eat it 4 times, then you don't give birth. If you eat it 7 times, then you are becoming impotent. Because there are enough ladies who have their kids enough. There are enough men who are feeling, I'm okay with my 4 kids. Now I don't want 8 kids anymore. We will just be eating GMO. And we are good to go. This is a lie. And I can tell you, biodiversity, when they tell you biodiversity, they have no clue that we have reduced the spraying, and therefore we have actually supported your biodiversity. And of course, who supports that? But please, let's talk about this. How come that it is so difficult to discuss GMO? Why is it that those people who don't believe in it don't want it? How come that those who also understand it, like myself, also like it so much? We are struggling. Just like that, you pick whatever direction you think that person is looking, for yourself. But what is more important here, we need to understand, anytime we have a very small progress, and this I want to say again, every time we have a small progress, like when this government popped up and into in government, the first thing they did was to allow the GMO. But the small progress that we make, we get maximum setback. Just like this. The road is already done. But look at the street lights, the direction. So you wonder, where do we go wrong? We thought that we were doing something very good. The country was ready. The government is good willing, and now we are good to go. But what are we? Now we are actually struggling in courts, when we were very, very happy with that. And half the time we were seriously also misunderstood. I don't know why these guys think that we don't live in this country. We also live here, and we want our families to be here. But we are so suspected as scientists. People are so skeptical, and I'm wondering what is really happening. This guy, I don't know whatever he's doing, but he's expecting a slap right away, because he's not. The expectation is something else. We need, as a country, to start thinking that to get to know, and this is where the culture comes in. The fact that something is new does not mean that it is bad. Please, good people, allow the biotechnology and this product to also pop up just like any other new technology. Because the idea here is that this gentleman is very innovative, and I agree with him. Unfortunately, what we don't know is that some of these technologies will not work, because sometimes people are superstitious, like in Africa. You cannot joke with the hair the way this guy is joking here. And that is why if somebody is shaving your hair and there's somebody behind you also picking the hair and putting, he's just collecting litter. It never happens, by the way, because you'll be like, why are you picking my hair? That is why they let your hair drops down, and they let you go is when they sweep, from the barbers. So it's the same thing we are happening. And we are saying that the technology could be good, but we also need to speak to our cultures. For instance, there's a good technology which we are calling featherless chicken. Featherless chicken means that instead of struggling with bigger companies like the McDonald's and all that to start removing feathers from the chicken, we would rather silence the gene that is producing the feathers. Because clearly, do you eat feathers? So does the chicken really need feathers? Particularly when it was roaming out there, yes, because it was the cloth. Right now they are in a hole
where you are incurring cost of heat, cost of food and everything, do you still need to again have the feathers to go and remove? So that is worrying. And yet, and that is a technology that worked. But I can tell you, it can't work in Africa here. Because our process of slaughtering the chicken starts from what? Being pointed, that's the chicken. Then you start now running with it over the fence, Then that's the bonding. We start bonding with the chicken at that particular point. Then is when you remove water, hot water, remove feathers. That's whole process and how it happens. So it's a good technology, but the culture will have a problem with it. And that is what we are saying. How have we come to a point where we are not allowing GMO and biotechnology to coexist with other technologies? And what we are seeing here is this, that with the time, we must bring ourselves to talk. This is what we are saying. Because here, these guys must talk, even if they don't like each other. Because if he pulls that trigger, both of them are gone. And that is why some of us are here, because we are saying we must stop this voice. We must be the voice of reason and start talking about these technologies in the right way. It is not easy, I must say, because you will be labeled as working for Monsanto or working whatever, where you're getting the money, all that. But you just need to be strong enough, like that monkey is doing. And then we hope that this guy is not waking up shortly to deal with him. But now, finally, and closer to the point is, we need to appreciate that, when you repeat a lie so many times, it sounds as if it is really so bad. Like this anti-GMOs will keep telling you that, that is the shadow of this guy. And they keep repeating it to you until you start actually wondering, by the way, it could be true. It is not. They can say it all they want, that GMOs cause cancer, whatever, but from where we sit, we know that's a lie, and you know what they keep saying, that the lies can keep going around as the truth ties their, it's tying the laces. As we are discussing here, this is what is happening in the rest of the world. The US is happy, Asia is happy, India is happy, but here we are still having a ban. It is so unfortunate that as Africans, we are so skeptical, and this is important. We are so skeptical, and if we are not careful with this skepticism, we are also getting to a point that it becomes dangerous. Because why is this? Where is the imagination that all the new things are just meant to kill us? It's a narrative that is being created for us, and once you continue doing that, we are going actually to be struggling big time. All my request is that we need to be innovative when we are formulating the strategies. Let's pick the strategies that are working for us, like what Better has already put in place. Why can't we take advantage of that? What this means is that be innovative like this lady. This is a lady who is being told by the husband, how are you people at home? Because the husband had traveled. And she took a picture just in front of a fridge that is empty. And they told them, yeah, we are fine, as you can see. So he has already communicated here very subtly. But that, that's innovation in itself. And that is why we are saying, as Africa, what do we need to do? We must always know that in every problem there is a solution. And we have it. Let's not fear some of these things because it's important. Let's believe in ourselves. Let's get to know that we have what it takes. We have the scientists, we have the regulators that work. And it doesn't matter. In our small way, even if it is just a small little thing that we are doing, let's just appreciate it. It is ours. Let's build on it and make sure that instead of having GMOs being called GMOs, let's twist the narrative so that it becomes, oh my God, because it's also very, very possible. And that is my university and Kenyatta University. And once again, thank you so much. Good morning.
As always, let us put our hands together for Professor. Asante sana mwalimu. We truly appreciate that input always. And like Honorable Wanyonyi of Kwanza constituency said last time, we may want to take you to a stadium someplace in Trans Nzoia, and then you will have a big screen to tell the world this story. Again, asante sana, Professor. It is at this point that I would like to call upon our key partners to pitch each in about 5 minutes, and I want to start with Bear, East Africa. Bear, where you step forward quickly. The others can be preparing. Probably PBS, I can see Paul Chege in the house. Yes, Paul will be there. If John wants to say anything additional, we will get that opportunity. So Bear, East Africa, Dennis, you're there. Do you have a presentation or you a brief one in 5 minutes? Yes. Via East Africa, Dennis Karibu. So, Irene, you're assisting him. Yes.
Yes, use it.
Science, ISA, US Green Council. I also understand our scientists from the scientists of Kenya Association are also here. Please, 5 minutes. I do not know how it will work. Please, Dennis.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thank you. So I stand in the already established protocols, and my name is Dennis Omondi from Bio East Africa. Just to briefly talk about what we do at Bio East Africa. So Bio East Africa is essentially a life science company, and it is actually composed of thousands of people who use science and innovation to promote health for all and hunger for none. So through crop science, Bio uses innovation and partnerships across agriculture to tackle our most pressing global issues. We work to ensure farmers can achieve more sustainable, reliable harvests that use less energy, water, and land to feed our growing world and give back to the earth more than we take. This is what we call regenerative agriculture in terms of producing more with less. So Bayer is actually grounded in our vision of health for all and hunger for none. And through crop science division, Bayer is an essential is an essential partner when it comes to agriculture. And being that health for all and hunger for none is our key mandate, we tend to also have like other divisions within Bayer. One being the pharmaceutical division, the consumer health division, and the biggest one being the crop science division. So our purpose is actually science for a better life, and in this, it guides us to make a difference around the world while delivering solutions tailored to the needs of individual farmers, patients, and the consumers. Our life values and our unique focus on health and nutrition demand that we create value for all stakeholders today, tomorrow, and also for the future generations. So, in a nutshell, farming has the power to solve problems that affect us all. And this was highlighted clearly by Prof. as he was making the presentations. And we use actually innovations in farming to have the power to eradicate hunger, reduce poverty, slow climate change, advance health and nutrition, regenerate the earth's natural resources, empower women and communities, promote successful, sustainable businesses of all sizes, and reduce the environmental impact of agriculture. So in Bayer, what do we offer? So Bayer is a leader in seeds and traits and has the power and has the most innovative crop protection portfolio, together with the most advanced digital farming platform. But we do sell more than tools and bottles and bags. We also provide like tailored solutions for farmers to plant, grow, and protect their harvest using less land, water, and energy. So this, we actually do it through the use of innovation and sustainability and digital transformation, that is to help farmers create solutions maybe to the global challenges that we continue to face, like climate change. And as I conclude, successful farmers are the backbone of our business. So we don't just sell our products, we sell tailored solutions. Farmers are actually given the choice every single season, and they choose tools based on what works for them and what makes the business actually prosper. both the small scale and the large scale. And currently, we are more into enhancing a small-scale farming activity across different areas in sub-Saharan Africa. So success doesn't come with using more resources than needed, be it money, land, water, and energy. So it also comes with using all the suitable tools and services to use more precise amounts of the right products to grow crops sustainably and efficiently. As I conclude, our long-term success lies not in selling more products, but in providing farmers with the best tools and solutions to achieve better harvests using less land, water, and energy. Thank you for listening.
PBS, Dr. Paul Chege, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mugira. The representative of our Cabinet Secretary, the chair of the NBA board, the NBA board, our partners led by ISA, where I am hosted, my senior John Komen, who is online. All protocols observed, good morning. Yeah, my name is Paul Chege. I'm the country coordinator for the Program for Biosafety Systems. Program for Biosafety Systems is a program by the International Food Policy Research Institute, and our main job is to enhance the capacity of biosafety regulations in Africa. And in Kenya, we have had a close collaboration and successful partnership with NBA for the last 20 years, 2 decades. We started small when NBA was incepted in 2010. And, you know, the law required that we get into technology that is regulated, as Professor has told us. So there are systems that needed to be built. There are guidelines that needed to be built. There are people, because the applications that are sent to NBA are actually reviewed by people, and these people had different professions, have had different strengths, although in biosciences. So they needed to learn from the best practices around the world on how to review dossiers. And we are happy that that progress has yielded fruits. We have a crop with farmers, midwifed by NBA. We have others coming on. We have maize, insect-resistant maize coming on. We have virus-resistant cassava coming on, all of them having been granted environmental release approval. So in Africa, as I said, we work with in 8 countries in total. If my count is right, we are in Malawi, we are in Tanzania, both mainland and Zanzibar. We are here in Kenya, we are in Uganda, we are in Ethiopia, we are in Nigeria, and we are also in Ghana. And in all those countries, we notice progress, but Kenya can be termed as one of the best case studies, because even other countries benchmark with the progress that NBA has made. When I see colleagues from NBA being invited to give talks in Nigeria or Ghana about emerging technologies, emerging trends in biosafety regulations, then we can only sit and be very satisfied, but look forward to reimagining biosafety, better regulated, with the emerging trends in biosafety regulation. So on behalf of our director, Judy Chambers, we can only say that we are committed to continue this collaboration. Our job is not to promote the technology. Our job is to ensure that there is capacity for sound regulations, biosafety regulation backed by science and evidence. So thank you so much, and I wish you a fruitful conference.
National Research Fund, anyone who could speak for NRF? No. AATF, the Agriculture Technology Foundation? No. Cotiva Agri-Science, yes, I'm sure somebody is here looking around. Cotiva, no. ISA Afri Center, Margaret, please.
Thank you very much, National Biosafety Authority CEO, for giving us this opportunity. CEO, Chair, National Biosafety Authority, Professor Kinyamario. We have worked a lot with the professor there, and representatives of the board, representations from national government, from the Office of the President, the legislators present here, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Again, good morning. Maybe we are going to the afternoon, but it's still a morning. My name is Margaret Karembu, Director of ISA Afri Center. ISA stands for the International Service for the Acquisition of Agri-Biotech Applications, long name, but our main mission is to share knowledge on all aspects of modern biosciences through strategic communications. So we have 3 pillars. We inform, ensuring that the global community has the latest information and facts about developments in biotechnology and biosafety. And in that, we have a symbiotic relationship with the National Biosafety Authority and indeed the biosafety authorities in Africa, because without them doing the work they do of approving the products, then we will not have anything to share. So we continue being friends of the national biosafety authorities in Africa because they provide us with the content through which we package into knowledge products to share with the rest of the global community. The second pillar is to inspire, and this we do because we have realized a lot of us are held by certain mindsets and fears about modern biotechnology, and we realized that it is important to have a platform where we could expose different stakeholders, policymakers, regulators, farmers, and even the media to countries where these technologies have already been approved. We heard from Professor Udur that this technology has been in the marketplace for 30 years plus. But here in Africa, we are doing a lot of debates. We say, I think the grass has become Africa, where everybody is really fighting for what Africa should or should not do. But I really like the conclusion he made that we have so much capacity and we don't utilize that capacity. Then the flip side is others are poaching our capacity, developing the products, and then we become consumers and recipients. What that means is we export our jobs. We deny our farmers the opportunity to grow better crops or to use better tools. And we also deny those that are supposed to be making policies that opportunity to make decisions based on the knowledge that is available. The last one, the last pillar is that of transforming. We believe in an Africa that is competitive from an agricultural perspective, from a health perspective, and in that, we are also in the One Health space where we are looking at different ways in which we integrate the knowledge about our agriculture, the knowledge about the life systems, animals, plants, environmental ecosystems, and see how best we can infuse innovations that make our planet healthier. We all desire a healthier environment, but unfortunately, most of the tools that we use are very old. They are actually in museums of other developed countries. I feel very sad when I go to a museum, for example, in the UK, and one of the tools that I see there in the museum is the djembe that our farmers are using, or those slashers that we use, because the world has moved on. And so what we have done as the Afri Center, having the Africa mandate, we have established the Africa Science Dialogue platform that is looking at how best to tackle the monster of misinformation and disinformation that has become a real pandemic. In fact, the World Economic Forum has identified misinformation and disinformation about the different things or the different developments in the systems, democracy, science, as the next pandemic. So if you're not careful and if you're not informed by what has been developed through our scientific findings, through our research institutions that are also struggling, because the more we debate, the less the exchequer is able to make a decision on whether to invest in our research institutions, the more then we become vulnerable to misinformation. And now we get into the double tragedy of fear that we know, all of us, that something needs to be done about our agriculture. We need to make it more competitive, but we are so afraid to do anything. So we remain there, and so others see a vacuum, and they do fill that vacuum. So I want to thank the National Biosafety Authority for creating these platforms that bring together different stakeholders to listen, to dialogue among one another, so that we can also reduce the debates. Because the more we debate, the more we pull each other apart, the more we think that one is a winner and one is a loser. In ISA, we believe in the power of coexistence, that you can still have traditional methods of farming, you can still have and enjoy your organic farming, because that is all we knew. We have really not done much other than doing some organic farming. So it's really not new. It has just been fantasized so that it looks like something, the topic, it's very topical these days when you talk about organic farming. So those who need or who really feel strongly that they would like to pursue organic farming should do it. And actually, biotechnology feeds in very well to organic farming. It makes organic farming more efficient because you reduce the amount of chemicals you spray, you reduce the amount of footprint to the environment, and you also reduce the inputs, external inputs, water, other resources that you put. Then those who would like to continue with technology should have it. And for our government now, with the National Biosafety Authority enabled, we believe that we can harness the power of biotechnology safely and responsibly. We do all this work through our partnerships. Some of them are online. I want to appreciate all our partners. I see many partners here, including the Department of Directorate of Research, Science and Technology here, who are also our partners. I see Dr. Kenywa here. I see the legislators. I'm so happy to see all of you and looking forward to interacting with you all. Remember, please remember, we are dealing with more of risk perceptions when it comes to GM technology than the actual risks. Because if we had real risks, then we would not have seen the kind of investments and the kind of adoptions that we have seen globally over the last 30 years when this technology has been there. So let us not be the blind men and the elephant, the proverbial one, who are always wanting to describe biotechnology depending on who we interact with or where we are, who we want to make happy or sad. Let us use evidence. And the evidence is generated by our researchers, and the National Biosafety provides us the assurance that they have gone through the products that are going to be approved for our markets and for our farmers. Thank you very much, and may you have a very successful deliberation over the next 3 days. Thank you.
The United States Grain Council, anyone representing the Grain Council? No. The scientists of Kenya Association, where is the scientist? Sasa. Yes, our colleague from the Scientists Association, please come forward and tell us what that association is and if we are eligible to become members of the association. As she does that, the friend or visitor from US Green Council, set yourself so that you can also make a statement. Thank you. Karibu.
Thank you so much. All protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Kimanthi. I'm the founder and chairperson, the Scientists of Kenya Association. This is the multidisciplinary association that hosts scientists in different faculties. So we have scientists in physical sciences. Those are scientists who have pursued physics, chemistry, and science laboratory sciences. We have biological sciences, which constitutes 80% of the members. Those are people in biotechnology, biochemistry, molecular biologists, biomedicals, agricultural sciences, and just to mention but a few. We have people in food science and technology. We have people who have pursued forensic sciences, and we have people who have pursued environmental sciences. So this association registers members in different capacities. We begin from students, graduates, those are professionals, professors, and also institutions. So far, it stands at a capacity of 280 members, 5 professors, and 1 institution. SCOCA was formed 3 years ago, but it managed to be registered last year, and it was launched on 7th of October at Kemri, who was our main sponsor. So one of our main objectives and what drove us to founding the association was after graduation, we do not have a licensing and a regulatory body that recognizes scientists in this country. So as a youth and as a young scientist, also one of our main objectives is to empower and also do capacity building to youths and young professionals, and above all, young girls and women that are venturing into science, research, and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, from the US Grain Council, you're ready to make a statement. Karibu, Madam. Careful at the corner. Yes.
Good afternoon. So my name is Susan Minor. The U.S. Grains Council is an organization formed by members in the U.S. So it's a registered U.S. organization of members who are growers of grains, key grains including maize, sorghum, and barley. Now, the aim of the organization is to promote these grains globally. And in Kenya specifically, it is working with the animal feeds manufacturers, of course with other stakeholders, with the aim of enhancing our awareness and our adoption of alternative grain in the animal feed industry. And so specifically then looking at products like the byproducts of maize or corn. There is a very popular product called the DDGs, which could be a viable alternative for usage of the maize and reducing the competition that we already have in Kenya with our white maize. And so key partners, of course, include Margaret's organization, the National Biosafety Authority, and as I said, the AKIFEMA, the animal feeds manufacturers of Kenya, and a host of other stakeholders. So asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Susan. We are joined by a special guest from Rwanda, Isaac. Start making your way here. Isaac is from the Africa Organization of Technology in Agriculture. He is our guest from Rwanda. Tell us about what is coming up, Isaac. Karibu.
Asante. Habari. Very good morning, and thank you, CEO, for the opportunity. My name is Isaac Kagara, and I came from Rwanda to attend this event. First of all, I want to really thank the speakers who spoke. I was very inspired. Also, myself had little information about biosafety, but I was really inspired, and I was wondering, imagine how many other people in Africa who don't have such information and how vital it is. So education and traveling is very important. And I think if we had many other people attend such forums, very important forums, it would be very inspirational. So coming back to the subject, I founded an organization called Africa Organization of Technology in Agriculture. And we are in Rwanda, we are registered in Rwanda. We work with the Rwandan government, but also we now work with South Africa, Ethiopia, and now we're in Kenya. So a few years back, we put out an RFP. We do organize an international conference called the International Conference on Business Models in Agriculture. And our major focus is to monetize the agriculture sector. We look at 3 pillars, including research, policy, and business. Mainly, many events you find when you come, universities are excluded. And if you look at the narrative also out, you find that people say universities in Africa, basically, they're outside the box. They're not contributing to some of the challenges our societies are facing. And then you find we pride on, which is not bad, working with external universities, which is not bad. But again, if you look at really the knowledge and the good work being done at our universities, you can't believe it. So you find there's a mismatch, a gap between researchers, policymakers, and the business community. So what this conference brings about is really to bring universities, and we are working with now quite a number of universities. Now in Kenya, we had the approval of the Nairobi University. We've met with the Egerton University, and I saw some of the universities in the room. We're happy to work together. We are bringing high-level business people and policymakers, including heads of state. So the event will be hosted here at the Sawela Lodges from March the 10th to the 14th. And we're expecting over 1,000 delegates and 100 exhibitors for close to 4 days. Day one, we'll be having tours to visit farmers and see what's taking place. And then the 3 days of the event. But really, this is a good topic that we want to include into the event. And I think we invite you not to miss this conference. Our motive is to bridge Africa, work together, promote trade, markets, and continue learning and learning from one another. Lastly, Rwanda, where I come from, we are a small country, but a country that has been really dedicated on homegrown events or homegrown solutions. Sometimes you find that Africa, we've been importing a lot of things, including knowledge. But really, if you look at from every young person to an older person, before looking for solutions outside, we first look at what do we have as homegrown solutions, how do we implement this to work, and we make sure that we make them work, but also bring our brothers and sisters to see what we learn from them. So we are also exporting this, coming to Kenya. We are very happy to be in Kenya, and we look forward to working with you to continue learning and bridging the gaps between our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Isaac. Now, from here, we will now retreat to take a group photo at a location on my left towards the place that has been prepared. After the group photograph, we will now break for lunch. We will be back for lunch and also for pitching and networking and viewing of the exhibition. We will be back at 2 p.m. I'll request that you will be back here exactly 2 p.m. Our first presenter is doing it online. She's waiting online, so it is good that we are able to participate at exactly when she is ready to make the presentation. The session will be chaired by Mr. Akbad Munyi, who's a member of the Board of Directors of the NBA, And the first presentation this afternoon will be made by Dr. Margaret Karembu. We are making a little adjustment to the program. So instead of that presentation meant for me, Dr. Mugera, that will be Dr. Margaret Karembu, who will make a presentation on science communication in the biotech and biosafety space. We have already received the presentation by Dr. Kenywa, and thank you again, Daktari. So after Margaret, then we shall have the next one by the Africa Union, NEPAD. So I wish you bon appetit for the lunch, good viewing of the exhibitions, but first we take a group photo at our location outside to the left of this hall. Asanteni sana na karibuni.